Is the back and forth over for the LSU coaches sticking with Ole Miss during the CFP? I've got the absolute latest. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. So two things we're going to cover in today's episode. Number one, the latest on the LSU coaches going back and forth with Ole Miss. I've got all the up-to-date information, and we're going to talk LSU quarterbacks. Michael Van Buren has gone in the portal. I've got an update on Trinidad Chambliss, Brendan Sorsby, everything you need to know. We're getting to it here in an abbreviated Locked On bonus edition. Let's start with the coaches. We'll get right down to it. So we told you that after Ole Miss won the Sugar Bowl on Thursday, the full complement of the LSU coaches who were doing double duty were back at football ops at LSU on Friday morning for the start of the transfer portal. Well, Friday night, Charlie Weis went back to Oxford. The rest of the coaches stayed. I learned on Saturday morning that all of the other coaches, with the exception of Charlie Weis, were all still in Baton Rouge working on the portal. So that would be Joe Cox, that would be Kevin Smith, George McDonald, Dane Stevens, and forgive me, there's one more that I'm missing. I'm sorry. The inside receivers coach, whose name is slipping my mind right now. It'll hit me in just a second. Anyway, so those additional 5 coaches all stayed with LSU. Weis went back. Sawyer Jordan is who I was thinking. Forgive me. Sorry, Sawyer. It's been a lot going on. So those 5 stayed. Weis went back. Well, throughout the day Saturday, a lot of different things started to break. Chase Parham, our buddy who covers Ole Miss for 24/7, reported that Kevin Smith would not be returning to Ole Miss at all during the duration of this playoff run. And what I can tell you now, which I have been able to confirm, Kevin Smith will not be going back. Now, it was interesting because Kevin Smith put out there and said publicly that he's looking forward to coaching Ole Miss throughout the duration of the playoff run. I was told that barring something dramatically unforeseen, any last-minute change, that Charlie Weis Jr. will be the only coach pulling double duty for the remainder of Ole Miss's playoff run. He will be going back and forth. The other coaches will remain at LSU permanently. I know the next obvious question is, whose decision was this? Was it Lane Kiffin's? Was it Ole Miss's? Yes. If you missed our previous episode, we went through this. Number one, Lane Kiffin, he won't say it publicly, nor should he, but I think if you injected him with true serum, strapped him up to a lie detector and said, do you think Ole Miss would have played past January 1st? He would have said no. And so that means come January 2nd, portal opens. They very likely thought they were going to have their coaches in tow. Well, Ole Miss won. That's complicated things even further. Pete Golding, when he met with reporters on Saturday, said it doesn't matter. They'll win. They'll move forward either way. I'm paraphrasing. And also said that he's expecting these coaches to be back to coach with him throughout the duration. Y'all let me boil this down as easily as I can. The news is, based on the best information I have, is that Charlie Weis moving forward will be the only one going back and forth. Everyone else is staying at LSU, regardless of what they say. Do you know that opening scene from the movie Wedding Crashers, the mediation scene where the divorced couple are going back and forth, and you have Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson's characters mediating the divorce proceedings, and they just hate each other so much, and everything they do is just to spite one another. That's this right now with LSU, Ole Miss, and these coaches. Charlie Weis saying that he expects these coaches to be there, knowing they don't work for him and he has nothing to do with that, is trying to smear Lane Kiffin, saying if they're not here, it's because of Lane Kiffin. Well, then Kevin Smith goes out publicly and says, I want to be at Ole Miss, knowing full well that if he's not at Ole Miss, that's Ole Miss saying you're not coming back. And I'll say again, the thing that is at the crux of this for both parties, from LSU's perspective, they want their coaches there. They're in the middle of the portal cycle. LSU hosted the #1 edge prospect in America on Friday night. Took him to Supper Club in Baton Rouge, which is a great sponsor of my radio show and an amazing place, and it'd be hard for anybody to turn down Supper Club. Lane Kiffin's got pictures posted, with him with the Bentley, and I look and I go, they're in the middle of that. They're hosting Brendan Sorsby on Saturday night, the #1 quarterback from Cincinnati. Like, LSU needs its staff there to recruit these players. That should go without saying. The other part of it, from Ole Miss's perspective, is they're allowing LSU coaches into their facility while they're trying to put together this tampering claim that Ross Dellinger reported. And so the coaches, so you're accusing LSU of tampering, of trying to recruit your athletes. Well, excuse me, how in the world can a coach a player without having contact with him? Of course that's going to happen. So both sides of this right now want this agreement to end, but neither wants to be the one that gives for what it might look like publicly. It's a very petty, spiteful thing, and the sooner this is all over, the better, so both programs can go in their own directions. Ole Miss has their coach in Pete Golding. They got a lot of money to spend. They're in the playoff, and they've got maybe a bright future. LSU has the coach that was the #1 coach in the cycle. They landed their #1 target, and they got a treasure chest of funds to spend in the portal, and they're already attracting the biggest names right now. This agreement needs to be done. Charlie Weis has been adamant he wants to coach Ole Miss in the playoffs. He's the play caller there. LSU sort of allowing him to do it, so he's going back and forth. So the thing that I can tell you as we turn the page now to what's next, with a quarterback update, is Charlie Weis follow me. They win the Sugar Bowl Thursday. Friday, he's in Baton Rouge. Friday night, flies back to Oxford, is there in Oxford Saturday. Saturday night is back in Baton Rouge for Brendan Sorsby's visit. So let's pick up there. And again, the news that I have is that the coaches other than Charlie Weis, who have been doing double duty, barring something unforeseen moving forward, are not expected to go back. The only one expected to go back now, for as long as Ole Miss is in the postseason, is Charlie Weis. But again, in Baton Rouge on Saturday for quarterback Brendan Sorsby's visit. So let me step aside quickly, and I'll pick up there and give you the latest on the quarterbacks, because I do have an update on Trinidad Chambliss' situation as well. That's next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rougiette Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue, so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rougiette Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rougiette.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. And we're brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night, before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. boosts, bonuses, surprises, and the timing is perfect. It's right before the games, it's right before the weekend starts. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Okay, so Charlie Weis back in Baton Rouge for Brendan Sorsby's visit, and this one is massive. Now, if you're an everydayer, shout out and thank you. Did talk you through LSU's quarterback list. And Trinidad Chambliss very clearly was at the top of the list, has been at the top of the list. And I do believe that had Ole Miss lost to Georgia, I believe Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey and Winnie Watkins and Deuce Alexander, all these players would be in the portal already. And I believe a lot of the conversations, as it is in sort of the legal tampering period, have been done. And I think terms have been agreed to with those guys, and they would have been at LSU. Then winning complicates everything. Now let's talk specifically about Chambliss, okay? I've told you about Chambliss, an offer pushing $4 million, which is market value for a great quarterback, okay? LSU, I think, is learning the same thing that I've shared with you here. The NCAA is unlikely to grant Trinidad Chambliss his waiver. I think that it's something we've said here for several weeks now, and I believe that Ole Miss knows that, which is why, by the way, you've seen them start to bring in transfer targets in this portal class. I think LSU is learning it as well, which is why you're seeing a lot of their attention diverted to other prospects, namely Brendan Sorsby, we'll talk about in a second. Because if you're LSU, you have to think about it this way with Chambliss. While that is intoxicating to where there would be no bridge, there would be no learning curve. He would be stepping right into a place in the SEC with the same coach's offense terminology, everything. It would be plug and play. But if he doesn't get that extra year of eligibility and then needs to sue for the extra year of eligibility, and he's retained attorney Tom Mars, there's no guarantee you're going to get that. And by the way, I did have a conversation and hat tip to my buddy Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports, who does an awesome job. And he reminded me that the NCAA has actually, there's been high profile cases they've lost, but they've actually won. The NCAA has won 2 out of every 3 appeals cases that have gone to court. So there've been high profile losses, Diego Pavia among them, but they have won their fair share. So there's no guarantee. If you're LSU, you're sitting there and there's no guarantee Chambliss is going to have a year of eligibility. So do you risk waiting while the best portal prospects go to other schools, or do you jump in the fold? LSU is choosing to be aggressive and jump in the fold. Now, most people are assuming that Sorsby is going to add the Cincinnati quarterback. Talked about him, 2,800 passing yards, over 20 touchdowns, single-digit interceptions. Hang on, I'll tell you his exact stat line right now. It was 2,800 yards on the number, actually. 27 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QBR of 81.5. Also, a very good running threat as well is Sorsby. Remember, these stats are not sack adjusted, but his rush, he ran for 580 yards, averaged nearly 6 yards a carry and 9 rushing touchdowns this year. So Sorsby, number 1 quarterback in the portal. He visited Texas Tech, left Texas Tech, came right to Baton Rouge. Subsequent, so he's in Baton Rouge Saturday night, and Charlie Weis in town for that visit. So they're not convinced that Chambliss is going to get the waiver, and so they're weighing, can we wait? If they're saying, look, we can't wait, we have to move because you can't miss on the best prospects, Sorsby's at the top of that list. Most people are assuming Sorsby is a Texas Tech lean. Now, LSU can get financially competitive with the 3. Based on all the information I have, if you're just looking at finances, who has the most money to spend on their roster this year? You talk about the 3 Texas schools, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, LSU. Maybe Ohio State in that mix as well. Oregon has a lot of money, but Oregon is a hard sell for a lot of players. Not every player, but it's a hard sell for a lot of players because it's so remote. It's the Pacific Northwest. It's hard to get there. You can't fly into Eugene direct. And so players from across the country, their families can't see them play. That is a tough sell. Now, Dan Lanning's done an amazing job, and Phil Knight has an open checkbook and all that stuff. But they have money. It's just different because it's a hard sell. So Sorsby is going to be the primary target. Now, another player we've talked about a good bit is Sam Levitt. Now, Levitt's taking visits. You've seen some of the reports out there about where Sam Levitt is visiting. The challenge with Levitt is he's injured. So Sam Levitt, who missed half the season this year at Arizona State, is coming off of injury. So if you land Sam Levitt, he's going to miss spring practice, which means in a new offense, you have your starting quarterback missing spring in a new offense when you are in win now mode. This is not, you're building 3 years for the future. I mean, LSU is all in on Lane Kiffin, on his staff, on this portal class. They are trying to win now. So you start to look and get a little uneasy about what options remain out there at quarterback if Chambliss doesn't get his waiver, and if Sorsby picks Texas Tech, and if Levitt's injured. Where do you go next? That's how the dominoes start to fall. Now, from the Ole Miss perspective, I've told you as well, and again, this isn't an Ole Miss show, but these two programs right now are so interwoven that you can't really talk about one without talking about the other. They are also under the assumption that Chambliss will not be back. So they were working on a deal with Austin Simmons. As I was told, Austin Simmons wants starter money. He wants the numbers in the $3 to $6 million range that we're talking about for starting quarterbacks. I mean, I told you the number for Trinidad Chambliss that LSU offered was approaching 4. The number I was told that Texas Tech has offered Brendan Sorsby is north of that. So Simmons wanted that kind of money, and Ole Miss said no. So he's taken visits. So Ole Miss is very likely, I'm told, going to target Deuce Knight, the former 5-star who's at Auburn this year, who entered the transfer portal. Don't be surprised if you hear Deuce Knight at Ole Miss. So you start to look at what quarterbacks are out there, and as you check the box and start to scratch guys off the list, that list starts to narrow when you're talking about the elite level prospects. So that's what we're keeping an eye on. This feels like what it's going to come down to. If LSU is going to move on from Trinidad Chambliss, then it is, can you beat out Texas Tech for Brendan Sorsby? That's really going to be the big question. And if not, do you take a risk on Sam Levitt, being that he's injured, or is there someone else further down the list? We've talked about DJ Lagway. Lagway's also battled injuries. It's been reported he's taken an official visit to Florida State. Baylor's in the mix, who we've talked about a good bit as well. There's some other prospects that we've talked about. CJ Bailey from NC State could potentially go in the transfer portal. Damon Williams from Washington, who we mentioned to keep an eye on, he's announced he's staying at Washington. So you can see this game of musical chairs, man. The music is going. When the music starts to stop, everybody's looking for a chair, and you want to be the one, you don't want to be the last one standing. So you got to make sure if you're LSU, you take care of the most critical position on the roster, and that's at quarterback. And as a footnote, if you missed it on Saturday, Michael Van Buren also announced he's going in the transfer portal. So LSU has 0 quarterbacks on the roster right now, with Nussmeier out of eligibility, Colin Hurley, Juwan Johnson, Michael Van Buren all in the portal. The only quarterback remaining on the roster is preferred walk-on Emil Picarella. So Lane Kiffin and this staff are going in the portal, not just for 1, but certainly for 2, maybe even more quarterbacks to try to build that quarterback room for 2026. It is a precarious situation, and they cannot afford to miss at quarterback. So keep an eye on how this visit goes with Brendan Sorsby as he visits Baton Rouge on Saturday. A decision very likely to come soon. When that domino falls, we'll let you know. The one other thing we're talking about, I'll elaborate a bit more. A lot of you asked after Ole Miss won the playoff game, how Ole Miss winning that playoff game might affect LSU in the recruitment of the Ole Miss players. Well, clearly it has. Ole Miss is up the ante for their place kicker, Carniero, who I'm told is expected to stay at Oxford. The Trinidad Chambliss situation has become convoluted, as we've discussed. I've also been told now Kawan Lacey, who it was widely assumed was going to take a $2 million offer and follow Kevin Smith to Baton Rouge. Ole Miss is now pushing to keep Kawan Lacey in Oxford. That's going to be one worth watching. That, again, had Ole Miss lost to Georgia, this would be done. But now that they're playing on and LSU has to look at other options and Ole Miss has a big offer on the table, it may come to pass that Lacey ends up staying in Oxford because, again, LSU can't sit idly by and wait on a maybe. Now, the two receivers that I've told you about with Watkins and Alexander, they're very likely still in the fold for LSU because Ole Miss feels really good about their room with Caden Lee and with Stribling and some of the other guys that they feel like they have coming in. They feel good, and they're not going to overpay for some of those receivers. So Kiffin looking to rebuild the LSU receiver room. I still think those two receivers, Watkins, Alexander, as I'm hearing now, as of today, again, all of this is fluid, but I'm still believing those two guys will end up in Baton Rouge. But Chambliss and Lacey, what felt like, something that was almost a foregone conclusion. As Ole Miss has won, it has convoluted and complicated the situation even further. So we're going to follow it throughout. But what you need to know as we leave here today, expect Charlie Weis Jr. to be the only coach continuing to pull double duty for as long as Ole Miss is playing. The rest should remain in Baton Rouge for the duration. Trinidad Chambliss' situation, very complex. As we've talked about, LSU is vetting other options for a likelihood of Chambliss not getting that waiver. Sorsby at the top of the list. So Tigers are hosting prospects. We're expecting by Monday they'll start to get some commitments rolling in. As they do, we'll certainly have all the info for you right here on Locked On LSU. So thank you for hanging out with us here. So do me a favor. If you're on podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.